Welcome to our Coffee with the Candidates series with our sheriff candidates for the upcoming June 7th election. Our interview today is with Chief Deputy Mike Rothschadl. He is here to share a little bit more about himself and why he is the best candidate for our next sheriff of Yankton County. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Can we just start by, why don't you tell a little bit to the viewing audience about yourself?
My name is Michael Rothschadl. I was born in Bonhomme County, raised on a family farm just north of Tyndall. I got 6 brothers and 2 sisters. Graduated from Bonhomme High School, entered the U.S. Navy, was stationed in Annapolis, Maryland. I was military police. I got out of the military after my 4 years and worked at the U.S. Naval Academy for 4 years, where I was a watch commander. I then moved back to South Dakota, worked for the Mike Durfee prison for a few years, and in 1999 I was hired as a deputy sheriff for Yankton County. Then I was a sergeant with investigations for Yankton County, a lieutenant, and been the chief deputy since 2012. I am married. My wife's name is Mary. We have 6 children, 4 grandchildren, and just hoping to keep working for the citizens of Yankton County.
Well, thank you so much for your service. That is an extensive history that you have serving our country and our county. So can you tell us a little bit about what a sheriff does day to day?
Yes. The sheriff is responsible for the overall management and administration of his office. State laws make the sheriff personally responsible for the actions of all employees of the office that are appointed to him, and to see that all statutory required functions of the office are carried out. The Yankton County Sheriff's Office is responsible for the management of the Sheriff's Office and County Jail. The sheriff, along with his supervisory staff members, direct the day-to-day activities of 35 full-time employees and 8 part-time employees. As an elected leader, the sheriff has a duty and responsibility to the citizens and to the taxpayers of Yankton County to see that the tax dollars are utilized in the most efficient manner in keeping our community safe. The sheriff is responsible for managing budgets totaling $3.5 million in taxpayer dollars. While the sheriff and his staff respond to calls for service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, investigating crimes, accidents, and disturbances, the office of the sheriff has many other duties that they are required to perform by law that our regular police officers do not. Management of the Yankton County Jail, that has a capacity of 130 inmates. Service of all civil legal process directed by courts exceeds $4,000 a year. Execution of judgments by seizing property to be sold to satisfy civil court judgments. Collecting state and local taxes under distress warrants. Conducting real estate foreclosure sales when directed by a court order. Conducting court-ordered evictions, serving protection orders, receive and manage approximately 1,000 arrest warrants issued by courts for felonies and misdemeanors, responsible for providing security to judges and their staff in Yankton County courtrooms, transportation of prisoners from anywhere in the United States under extradition back to Yankton County to face felony charges, transportation of prisoners, adults, and juveniles to and from holding facilities for court action, several hundred a year, and transportation of many mentally ill individuals to appropriate treatment facilities. As an elected official, the sheriff most importantly works together with all citizens of Yankton County in addressing their concerns on keeping the community safe.
So is it fair to say that a lot of what the sheriff does is manage operations, not actually going out and responding to calls or being out in the field as much?
That's correct, but if there's a major incident, the sheriff is involved.
Okay.
And he's involved in all aspects of what goes on a day-to-day basis.
So can you tell me what is your best skill and how it will help you to be good at your job?
Having over a 30-year law enforcement background and having served in every supervisory and management capacity at the Yankton County Sheriff's Office, I have the knowledge and ability to continue the professional and dedicated level of service the citizens of Yankton County deserve. I have held the positions of Deputy Sheriff, Sergeant Investigator, Administrative Lieutenant, and I've been the Chief Deputy since 2012. At the last 10 years as Chief Deputy Sheriff, second in overall command of the Sheriff's Office and all its personnel. Yankton County in the past several years had 3 high-profile murder cases that I was tasked with taking administrative leave for the Sheriff's Office and working in conjunction with our federal and state counterparts and successfully bringing the persons responsible to justice.
So can you tell me a little bit about the relationship with the police department and the sheriff's department? Because I do think there's a lot of people who don't understand, because they're located in the same building, how exactly that relationship works.
Yes. While many of the sheriff's duties are different than the police department's, keeping our citizens safe from the criminal element is the utmost importance to all law enforcement agencies. The same criminals that operate in the city of Yankton are the same committing crimes in Yankton County and all over the state. As sheriff, I will always strive to foster excellent relationships between not only the police department and the sheriff's office, but also with our federal and state partners.
So what is something that you would like to bring to the sheriff's office to make it more efficient or effective?
I have been part of an administrative team at the Sheriff's Office for many years, and I've been extensively involved in all facets of management, from budgetary matters to hiring and disciplinary procedures to lead in major criminal cases. I have always been a manager who encourages input and constructive criticism from all my team members. Management of law enforcement agency also requires those that carry badges and guns to be held at a higher standard. Mistakes in law enforcement profession can have deadly consequences, so you must require professionalism and a strict adherence to law enforcement policies and procedures. As a law enforcement manager, I know the most important job I can do for those under my command is to give them training, tools, and equipment to do their job well and keep them safe.
Yeah, having a team of 35 full-time employees and 8 part-time employees, as you mentioned, is a really large group of people to work with. So how do you resolve conflicts, whether they're internally with the staff or maybe with those out in the community?
Okay. Well, as a manager and a leader, you must listen and talk with the parties involved and identify the points of agreement and disagreement. Using this information, develop a plan to work on the conflict to resolution. This plan can be worked with personnel and the public.
So what is the most important skill that a sheriff needs to possess?
Well, I believe there are many skills that a sheriff should possess, but if I had to pick one, I would choose experience. My extensive experience with day-to-day working of the sheriff's office, jail, county commissioners, and the public allows for a smooth transition as the new sheriff of Yankton County.
So in light of all the very public law enforcement situations over the last couple years, what will you do to make sure that your officers are properly trained, follow the rules, but still act with compassion?
I strongly believe that the deputies in Yankton County perform their duties with respect for democratic values, human rights, and the rule of law, to provide both the community and the deputies reassurance of what transpires during law enforcement calls, my plan is to provide all deputies body cameras. All our deputies attend training and peer for 13 weeks at the Law Enforcement Training Center upon hire. They are also required to complete continuing education to maintain their certification. This training must include crisis intervention, mental health, police practices and procedures, human behavior, and domestic violence. Our deputies can attend in-service trainings, outside trainings, and online trainings with Police One. Our more experienced deputies also provide mentoring to the new deputies. It is important to me personally that we treat the citizens of Yankton County with compassion and respect.
So is there anything else that you would like to add or, share with the viewers that maybe I didn't ask you in one of the questions today?
Well, I just wanted to point out that we have a lot of agencies that support us, and that would include the Highway Patrol, the Yankton Police Department, the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI, Secret Service, BIA, ICE, the SWAT teams out of Sioux Falls and Mitchell, emergency management, search and rescue teams. When there's a crisis, all we have to do is make a few phone calls and they're here to help us. And they have done that in the past, and in a crisis, it's great to have all those agencies help us, and it doesn't cost the taxpayer a dime. And then the Highway Patrol also has 5 canine units that are available to us, and the city has 1, and that doesn't cost us, the taxpayer, any money. And then the other thing with the jail is we bring over $1 million in from holding federal inmates, BIA inmates, and ICE inmates, and then all the fees and stuff for taxes and all that stuff, pistol permits. And all that money goes back into the general fund to help the other entities in the county. So on a good year, it's more than that. COVID kind of slowed that down, but it's usually over $1 million a year. And 10% of that goes into part of the budget where it's upkeep for the jail. And we did a $800,000 project a year or two ago with redoing the women's pod, and that didn't cost taxpayers a dime. And then, of course, we use grants throughout the year to get equipment, highway safety grant, and vest grants, and all our equipment is up to date. There's just a few things that I want to do as the next sheriff to get body cameras and cameras in the cars, computers in the cars.
Yeah, anyone who has paid attention to the county budget recognizes that the sheriff's department and through the services you provide at the jail has been a revenue generator,
right.
Which is an important component, like you said, to the overall budget. So it's nice to have those opportunities because our facilities are up to date. And like you said, there's funding that's being put into that capital improvement fund, so there are always dollars there to make those necessary improvements.
And we do stay in with that the $3.5 million budget with the sheriff's office and the jail. And the commission's already talking that the 2023 budget's going to be tight, and because of the inflation. But I think our revenue that we bring in helps that situation. So.
Well, thank you for all that you've done as Chief Deputy, and we wish you well in the upcoming election on June 7th. And for all the viewers, we encourage you to make sure you're registered to vote and then go out and vote on June 7th. Voting centers are located at Yankton City Hall, Yankton Fire Station number 2, Gayville Community Center, Mayfield Store, Lesterville Fire Hall, and Lewis and Clark Recreation Area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.